Ho, 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 ho! Super Bowl weekend. It's Friday, February 11th, 2022. 2 days away from Super Bowl 50 what? 56? I'll give my predictions. I'll give my prognostications. I'll give my unbiased thoughts on who will win the game. Sure, why not? This is the comparison group. I look at things through clear eyes. I give credit where credit is due. I give criticism where criticism is due. Regardless of the political party. Regardless of the team playing in the Super Bowl. Be it the Los Angeles Rams or the Cincinnati Bengals. So who do I think will win the big game? Get your pen ready. Here it comes. Los Angeles Rams, 104. Cincinnati Bengals, 0. That's right. The Bengals shouldn't even be there. They got lucky. Give my Pittsburgh Steelers 900 first-round draft choices in the last 10 years, and they could go to the Super Bowl too. Oh, you think I'm biased? Because I'm a Steelers fan? And I'm in the same division as the Bengals? You might just have a point there. But congratulations. Congratulations, Bengals. Congratulations, Rams. Let's hope we get a good, exciting game. I wish my Steelers were there, but queso row. I guess since I'm talking football, before I get to Bernie versus Trump, who would I vote for? Bernie versus Trump. I guess I should talk about Brian Flores. I don't know how many people are following the Brian Flores story. Brian Flores, former coach for the Miami Dolphins, coached for 3 seasons and had a record of 24-25, so just under 500. He's suing 3 teams and the NFL because of racial discrimination. He found out because of big fat mouth Bill Belichick, head coach of the New England Patriots, that the New York Giants were interviewing him even though they had already decided to hire someone else to be their head coach. They were going to go ahead and interview Brian Flores thinking he had a chance to get the job, but they had already made their pick. Now, in the NFL, there's something called the Rooney Rule, named after Steelers owner Dan Rooney. The Rooney Rule says all teams must interview potential black candidates to be head coaches or to work in the front office. I don't know if it says black candidates or minority candidates. Everyone always just says black candidates when they talk about this story. I noticed that. They say the Rooney Rule says you must interview black candidates, but I don't know if it says that. I hope it doesn't. What about women? What about Hispanics? So it should say they have to interview minority candidates, but I'm not sure. And I don't feel like looking it up. And in any case, the Rooney Rule says NFL teams have to interview black candidates to be their head coach or to work in the front office. And so it would appear the New York Giants were just going to interview Brian Flores to satisfy the Rooney Rule. He feels there were other teams. I believe Denver Broncos was one of the other ones that were going to do the same thing. Not really interested in hiring him, just going to waste his time with an interview to meet the rule. Well, Brian Flores could have just exposed that. He could have just said that. I don't know that he has to sue the NFL or sue the teams. He could have just said, hey, listen, the Rooney Rule is flawed. There are teams that are interviewing black candidates with no intention of hiring them just to meet the rule. There may be people who will say, well, you can't make your point. People don't listen unless you hit them in the pocket. Maybe so. But my thought is this. If there's one place in 2022 that you will find very little racism, it's in professional sports. Now, before people jump down my throat, I didn't say no racism. I said very little racism. I'm talking pro sports organizations. I'm not talking fan bases or anything else. I'm just talking the organizations themselves. And you know why? Money, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions for the leagues. The best person gets the job regardless of race. Players, coaches, executives, all with one goal: winning. Winning games, fielding good teams so they can sell tickets, so they can sell merchandise. That requires the best people. So with hundreds of millions of dollars, people's careers at stake, you think race plays a big role in decisions about who takes the field or gets the head coaching job? If I had the time and the resources on this show, I bet I could find you a dozen names of black football players who've been given a second, third, fourth chance by teams in the NFL. Josh Gordon is one that always comes to mind. Josh Gordon, a wide receiver in the NFL, has been suspended at least 6 times by the NFL because of drug use. But teams keep giving him a job. Why? He has a ton of talent. He can help them win. Antonio Brown, former Steeler, former Raider, former Patriot, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. The last team he was with, he quit on the field, stripped off his uniform and quit right on the field in the middle of a game. He's probably mentally ill in some sense. And I don't say that jokingly. He probably is. There's a team in the NFL that will give him a job tomorrow. Why? Because he has talent. He can help them win. So it's rarely about race anymore in that case. Teams are allowed to make the wrong decision. Teams are allowed to draft the wrong player or hire the wrong head coach. And maybe the Giants would have been better off hiring Brian Flores than the guy they did hire. We'll never know. Maybe there were some teams that would have been better off bringing Colin Kaepernick back when he still had some years left to play. But we'll never know. But I don't think it was a racism thing. I don't think it was a racism thing for Colin Kaepernick, Brian Flores, or any other players that teams passed on. It was, can they help us win? Can they help our organization? Or will they be too much of a headache for the organization that it prevents us from winning and prevents us from making money? Now, the only place Brian Flores can prove that he's a better coach than anyone else is on the field. He didn't do it with the Dolphins, and unfortunately, he's not going to prove that in a courtroom either. That's my thoughts on that. Now, moving on to Bernie versus Trump. And I realize there's other news out there. I realize I'm taking a chance here because people might have Trump fatigue, but this will be fun. Hang in there with me. I promise you, I think this will be fun. We're going to play a little game with this here. By the way, maybe you should go and get a pen and piece of paper now for later on in the show, okay? Pause the show, go get a pen and piece of paper, all right? But I realize there's other news. This show was already pretty much in the works when I saw Russia's just about to invade Ukraine. I tweeted this out. Don't you think it's time for us to stop waiting to see what Vladimir Putin is going to do? Doesn't it appear he's planning on invading Ukraine? So rather than Joe Biden, and rather than Joe Biden talking about what the response will be, we're going to sanction him, he won't get this oil pipeline, maybe we should do that now. Maybe we should start doing some things now as opposed to waiting for him to invade in some form or fashion and then doing it. Won't it be harder to get him out of Ukraine once he goes in with sanctions or any other punishment? I don't know. I don't know what we're waiting for. The guy seems pretty dead set on doing something with all those troops on the Ukrainian border. So what are we waiting for? Come on, Joe. Come on. Let's start putting our foot in people's butts like we used to. But in any case, Bernie versus Trump. Now, of course, this is a totally hypothetical question because I don't think there's a snowball's chance in HE double hockey sticks of either Bernie or Donald running for president in 2024. Let's hope not. But it's interesting to me because I think almost every person in the country right now has a definite answer one way or the other on the question, who would you vote for, Bernie or Trump? Now, most people would say, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I don't even have to think about that one. I know exactly who I would vote for, but I don't know if I do. Call me crazy if you want, but I don't know with 100% clarity who I would vote for. So let me explain. First, I have to separate the question into two parts. Who do I think would be better for the country? And then, secondly, who do I think would be better for me? Who would help me more? After that, I have to look at the leadership characteristics of each guy and how they would apply those characteristics to the job. Trump, of course, has been president, so we got some information there. But we got to look at the characteristics of a good leader. All right, let's take a look. First, communication. Both love to communicate. Both don't seem to have any problem running their mouths. Confidence. Okay. All right. Both have plenty of confidence in themselves and their ideas, I would imagine. Next, empathy. Okay. Accountability. Ooh, boy. All right. Integrity. Who wrote this list? Let me see here. Humility, self-awareness. These are the characteristics of a good leader. All right. Emotional intelligence. Holy crap. All right. Here's what we got to do. All right. You got your pen and paper? Here's what we got to do. I found this list online. There's about 20 to 25 different characteristics. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to go through a few of them. All right. And I'm going to give a grade from 0 to 5, for each guy, for each characteristics. All right. You do the same with your pen and paper if you want. Play along. And let's get a total at the end, and let's see who has the higher number for the leadership characteristics. All right. The good characteristics to be a great leader. Let's see here. All right. Communication. For Trump, I'm going to give him a 4. I'm going to give Trump a 4 in communication. Bernie, I'm going to give a 2. Now, listen, we're not all going to agree on this. I know. Come on. Trump, he keeps it simple, but he gets the point across. All right. He knows how to talk to the people he's talking to. You got to give him credit for that. He knows exactly what people want to hear. Bernie, on the other hand, I don't know. Again, he says what he says. He says it all the time. He keeps consistent with it. But there are times when I've seen Bernie being interviewed and he's asked a question, how are you going to do this, Bernie? How are you going to do that? And he's not clear on it. He's not clear on it at all. So disagreements aside, you give your number, I'm giving mine. I'm giving Trump a 4, Bernie a 2. Next, confidence. I'm giving Trump a 5. Have you ever met a more confident guy with nothing to back it up than Donald Trump? All right. We're not talking about whether or not he should be confident. We're talking about whether or not he is confident. Trump a 5, Bernie a 4 on confidence. I think Bernie is very confident in himself and his ideas and his thoughts and what he wants to do. So Bernie a 4. Empathy. Now listen, empathy. We all know what empathy is, having some compassion for people. I'm going to give Trump a 1. All right. I think Trump does have at least some compassion for the people that he... You're right. All right. Trump a 0. I'll give Trump a 0 in empathy. Bernie, I'll give a 2. All right. I'm not giving Bernie higher than a 2 on empathy. Do you think Bernie really, truly cares about people? Or does he care more about his agenda and what he thinks is the right thing to do for people? I don't know. I don't know if Bernie Sanders really cares about black people and helping black people, or if he cares about black people when it's time to care about black people, when he's running for president. I don't know. So I'm giving Bernie a 2 on empathy. I don't know if he really, truly cares about people. Accountability. Trump gets a 0. Okay. For obvious reasons. I'm not even going to explain it. But Bernie Sanders, I'm also giving a 0 on accountability. Bernie Sanders has shown no remorse, takes no blame whatsoever for what he did to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. None. Takes no accountability for that. No accountability for what he tried to do to Joe Biden in the last election. Bernie Sanders does not take accountability for what he does to the Democratic Party. So I'm giving him a 0 on accountability. All right? You keeping up? You giving your scores? Good. Next up is integrity. Oh boy, integrity. Trump gets another 0 for integrity. Bernie, I'm going to give a 3. I'm going to give her a 3. My scale is 0 to 5 for integrity. I'm giving Bernie a 3. All right. Next up in leadership characteristics, humility. Humility. Trump gets a 0. But guess what? I'm also giving Bernie Sanders a 0 for humility. Once again, this guy's been saying the same thing over and over again for decades. And he doesn't have the humility to even question whether or not his plan, his agenda, his ideas may not be the best course of action. No humility whatsoever. 0 for Trump, 0 for Bernie. Now, intuition as a leadership characteristic. Trump, I'm giving a 4. I'm giving a 4 on intuition, instinct. Again, it's not whether it's bad or good. It's does he have it? Trump has good instincts. He's quick. He's quick on his feet. That's why it's so hard for the media to nail him down. It's because Trump is quick on his feet with his instincts. He knows the right thing to say when he's in trouble. He knows the right thing to say to get people on his side. He has good instincts. In those circumstances, do those instincts serve him or the country well? That's a different story. That's in the eye of the beholder. Bernie, on intuition and instincts, 1. I give him a 1. Again, Bernie is set in his ways. I don't know that his instincts or intuition plays into his thought processes whatsoever. He just stays on that straight path that he's always been on, never wavering, not able to read a room, to get into a black church, let's say, and understand and know what people want to hear from him. Trump can do that. Trump can go anywhere and talk to anybody. That's his instinct. Decisiveness. Trump, I give a 4. Bernie, I give a 4. Both guys, they're decisive. When they make up their minds are made up. You're not going to change them. So decisiveness, both guys get a 4. Courage. Courage. This is going to be controversial. I'm going to give Trump a 3 on courage. All right. The guy will do anything. He'll try anything. He'll talk to anyone. He'll go talk to world leaders without any fear whatsoever that something stupid is going to slip out of his mouth. So I'm going to look at the courage in a whole different kind of way. It's not the courage to go fight in a war. Okay. It's not the courage to run into a burning building and save a baby. I'm going to look at the courage a little bit differently because we're talking about leadership qualities. So Donald Trump in a leadership position, the courage to talk to anyone, to go anywhere, to do anything, I'm going to give him, what did I say? I'm going to give him a 3. Bernie, I'm going to give a 2. Now, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is often defined as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. I had to look it up. That's emotional intelligence. Ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle your emotions. Trump is 0 on emotional intelligence. Bernie, I give a 1. I've seen Bernie get all worked up in interviews. I've seen him on panels sitting next to people who disagree with him, and he gets himself all worked up, spit flying out of his mouth, waving his hands all over the place. I'm giving Bernie a 1 on emotional intelligence. You give him something else if you want. We got 4 more. Honesty. Holy smokes. This is a killer. This is a killer for Trump. Honesty. Trump gets a 0. Now, I've told you before, you've never seen a liar like Donald Trump, ever in the history of the world. I told you, Donald Trump lies so much, he can begin a sentence with a lie and end that same sentence with another lie. That contradicts the first lie he told. You've heard him do it. No one knew something like this coronavirus could happen. No one could have predicted that. And oh, by the way, how come Barack Obama didn't prepare us? How come he left the cupboards empty? After he just got done saying no one could predict it. Or how about when he says Russia didn't interfere in the election? And by the way, how come Barack Obama let Russia interfere in the election, didn't do anything? He tells 2 lies in the same sentence that contradict one another. Do you know how hard that is to do? So 0 for Trump on honesty, a 3. I give Bernie a 3 on honesty. Bernie is not the most honest person in the world, but at the same time, he's not an outright liar. All right, so a 3. Self-awareness. I give Trump a 0 on self-awareness, but I also give Bernie a 0 on self-awareness. Again, The guy goes around like a wrecking ball in the Democratic Party and does not seem to be the least bit ashamed or aware of it. So Bernie gets a 0 for me on self-awareness. I could very well see where somebody out there might give him a 1 or even a 2, but I'm giving him a 0. Loyalty. Loyalty? Trump gets a 0. He gets a 0. There are literally no people left that were in Donald Trump's administration that had his back for 4 years that Donald Trump has been loyal to. Not one. Not one. Mike Pence was like the last one standing. No one was more loyal to Donald Trump than Mike Pence. And the second he didn't need him anymore, Donald Trump threw Mike Pence out like a stack of old DVDs. Just cut him loose. Trump has loyalty to no one. No one. Bernie, I'm giving him a 1 on loyalty for all the reasons I've already said. No loyalty whatsoever to the Democratic Party. Now, some people may say that's a good thing. You shouldn't be too loyal to the Democratic Party. Your loyalty should be with the country and with the people. But no, come on. You have to have some loyalty to the party. And Bernie does not appear to have any. So I'm giving him a 1 on loyalty. We're down to the last one, a strong one for Trump. And this does fall under characteristics for leadership. Social influence. Social influence. Trump gets a 5. Bernie gets a 3. I was surprised to find, I was ready to give Bernie a 1 or a 2 on social influence, but I was surprised to find in a Newsweek article, Bernie Sanders is actually the most followed lawmaker. At least he was at the time of the article. The difference between Trump and Bernie when it comes to social influence is Trump has been able to parlay that into something. He's been able to parlay that into becoming president. Bernie Sanders has not. For all of his social influence, Bernie Sanders hasn't really been able to parlay that into becoming president or even parlay that into getting much of his agenda accomplished. So Trump absolutely beats Bernie on social influence. He gets a 5, Bernie gets a 3. So what's the score? What's your score? You probably should really tweet it to me, send it to me on Instagram. Tell me your score that you came up with. My score, believe it or not, if I add up all those numbers, Trump, 26, Bernie Sanders, 26. They're tied. I couldn't believe it. They're tied. Even after all those zeros for Trump. I mean, Trump just gets killed in integrity and honesty. Just killed. Empathy. I probably helped him out. Oh, no, I did give Trump a 0 on empathy. I started to give him a 1, but I gave him a 0. But Bernie, Bernie didn't run away with it because of things like loyalty, self-awareness, intuition. So my scoring on the characteristics of a good leader has ended in a dead heat. Now, you may say to yourself, how could you even consider voting for someone who scores so poorly on honesty and integrity? Well, Trump voters would probably say because they would score the other side just as low. I gave Bernie a 3 in those categories. They'd probably give him a 0. I'm not saying who's right or wrong on that. I'm answering your question. How could you consider voting for a guy who gets a 0 on honesty and integrity? And as I say, you do it if you think the other side is just as bad. So we're in a dead heat. I haven't decided who would be best for me, who would be best for the country. So what I got to do now is I got to look at each man's greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses to determine who I'd vote for. Donald Trump's greatest weakness is he's criminally insane. He's an arch criminal. He's like a villain in a superhero movie. He doesn't belong in jail. He belongs in an institution for the criminally insane. That's his greatest weakness. And what, you'd still consider voting for him? Let me get through it. Let me get done. I haven't talked about Bernie's greatest weakness yet. Now, Donald Trump's greatest strength is his singular focus. His singular focus is himself and his own success. If we could find a way to channel that into focus into the success of the country, there's no telling what could happen. We hear it all the time. When the president succeeds, that means the country succeeds. If Donald Trump could be made to understand that his success is directly tied to the country's success and people's success, even the ones who didn't vote for him, he would do anything for anyone at any time. If it benefits him in the end, stronger gun laws. If it benefits him in the country, do it. Amnesty for undocumented. If it benefits him and the country, do it. Even higher taxes on the rich. He don't care. He ain't paying them. If it benefits him and the country, he would do it. If you could direct that focus on himself in a way that he thinks higher taxes benefit the country and therefore him, he would do it. There would be no agenda he wouldn't be open to as long as he could make the connection good for the country is good for me. I actually think it was one of the Democrats' biggest mistakes when Trump was in office, not understanding Trump lives on compliments and Kentucky Fried Chicken. But they offered him neither. If Nancy Pelosi showed up to the Oval Office with large heapings of both Kentucky Fried Chicken and praise for Trump, he would have signed just about anything she put in front of him. His focus is his strength if you exploit it. Now, what about Bernie? Bernie's greatest weakness is his hair and his inability to move even an inch off of his core beliefs. I see no shred of self-doubt in Bernie Sanders. Self-doubt that just maybe his way is not the best way, even though he's been asking the same questions for years. The same questions that seem to have the easiest answers. Why is it in the richest country in the world we can't offer blah, 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 blah? Why is it we can't offer paid family leave and early childhood education like every other industrialized country in the world? The same questions for years. And you're telling me there's no one that can give him the answer to these questions? He asked them like there's no answer. Of course there's an answer. The reason why we can't do these things, Bernie, is we're not the richest country in the world. Listen, when you're rich, you don't have to make decisions about what to buy and what not to buy. If you go out to buy clothes, you buy whatever clothes you want. If you're the richest person in the world, you don't have to make any decisions. You want to go on vacation? You go on vacation. You don't have to make decisions. We do. We do because we're not the richest country in the world. We're broke. We're trillions of dollars in debt. When you're in debt, you got to make a decision. Can I afford to go to Cancun? Can I afford to buy the good toilet paper and not the rough toilet paper? You got to make decisions. And so there are some things we can do and some things we can't because we can't afford them. How is it possible no one has ever told this to Bernie Sanders? And if they have told him, how is it possible it hasn't got through his thick head? It's because we are America, unlike any other industrialized country in the world. We're America. We're the people that have to supply COVID vaccines for all the poor countries in the world. We're the country that has to go solve problems that no one else wants to solve. That's why we're the country that has to defend countries that can't defend themselves, like Ukraine. That's why, because we're America. We're not any other industrialized country. Bernie, stop asking the same stupid question. That's your greatest weakness. It's like he's suffering from Dunning-Kruger. Go back and listen to my episode entitled My Attempt to Explain Crazy, which explains Dunning-Kruger. Bernie Sanders doesn't seem to have any appetite to seek out alternate information, to learn what he doesn't know. That's a really bad trait for a leader. Now, what's his greatest strength? Bernie Sanders' greatest strength is he would absolutely put the country and the American people before himself. I truly don't think Bernie Sanders has the slightest ambition to have books written about him, to be on the cover of magazines, to hobnob with celebrities, or even to make a lot of money. He doesn't even appear to own a decent pair of pants. So whether you agree with the how of it all, of his agenda, his sole agenda is to help people, help the country, and not himself. That's his greatest strength. No desire for money, power, praise, none of it. It's almost like Trump and Bernie are the complete inverse of one another, while at the same time being similar in a lot of ways. It's a riddle wrapped up in an enigma. So where does that leave us? So who do I vote for? How could I vote for someone who's criminally insane? How can I vote for someone who suffers from Dunning-Kruger? Who will help me more? Who will help the country more? Who do I vote for? Do I vote for Donald Trump? Do I vote for Bernie Sanders? The answer is I vote for Donald Trump. Will never again be president of these United States. They say never. I'm saying never. I would have to vote for Bernie Sanders. When Donald Trump was running for president against Hillary Clinton, one of the things I heard a lot of people who were planning to vote for him say is he's going to surround himself with the best people. They were willing to vote for him based on the fact that they believed he would surround himself with the best people. They were a little nervous about Trump's temperament, about his ability to do the job, but they assuaged themselves with the belief he's going to surround himself with all the best people. Well, we saw that wasn't the case, especially as his administration wore on. The best people he was able to surround himself with were gone. General Kelly, General Maddox. If you look at just the executive level positions in Trump's White House, there was a 92% turnover in 4 years. 92%. 60 out of 65 positions turned over. Now, every administration has turnover, but with Trump, each time the replacement was someone that would be more loyal to Trump, more willing to cover for him, more willing to tell him what he wanted to hear. The tougher things got, the more he didn't surround himself with the best people, he surrounded himself with sycophants. You can't run a country like that. You couldn't run a lemonade stand like that. You'd be out of business in a week. So I'd be forced, not happy, to vote for Bernie Sanders. I don't doubt Bernie would try to make Elizabeth Warren Secretary of State. He would probably try and make Alexandria, somehow my glasses make me hotter, Ocasio-Cortez Secretary of Treasury. Make Rachel Maddow his Secretary of Annoying Fox News. I don't doubt Bernie wouldn't do all that stuff. But I think when the reality of the job hits him, he will realize and accept it can't be his way or the highway. It can't be his way or no way. It can't be Bernie or bust. We tried Bernie or bust in 2016. It didn't work out so well. So I trust Bernie more than I trust Donald Trump not to surround himself with people who will be his enablers. I can't say for certain Donald Trump wouldn't surround himself with people that would allow him to sell Puerto Rico to the Chinese. So we know what we need to avoid a nightmare scenario like this becoming a reality. A strong third party. I know. I'm getting around to it. I'll talk about it. I'm the king of rock. There is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To burn my kingdom, you must use fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hey, by the way, anyone who listens to the show on the Good Pods app, Good Pods, GOODPODS, all one word. Don't know if people are familiar with the Good Pods, but anyone who listens, thank you. Thank you for the listening. Thank you for the ratings. I found out, got an email. The show is ranked number 2 out of the top 100 in the government category and number 4 out of the top 100 in the indie politics category. So thank you. Appreciate that. Please continue to listen. Please continue to rate the show, share the show. I'm trying to get better as I'm going along here. We're creeping up on 50 episodes. I think this will be the 45th episode. So creeping up on 50. Follow me on Twitter at @comparison_show. Visit the website www.thecomparisongroup.com. Find more episodes. I'm going to clean that website up. Again, getting up to 45 episodes is starting to get long to scroll through all those episodes. So I'm going to work on cleaning that up, making it easier to get to the most recent episodes. I'll probably date them, stuff like that. I apologize, I haven't gotten to that yet. But make it easy on yourself. Make it easy. Go to Instagram, find my link tree. It'll take you to all the platforms where you can find the show. Subscribe for free, and the show will come to you. Make it easy. Don't struggle. Don't struggle with it. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next time.